Experiences happen in almost every creative output, even in the most technologically complex products, systems, and environment. Experiences matter to you, me, and every single person. Hi, my name is Victoria, and I'm a multi-potentialist designer who is currently working as a product designer. Deeply passionate about human behavior, my work focuses on the intersection between design and emotional well-being, which led me to study my master's in digital experience design at Hyper Island and wrote my thesis on designing for emotional resilience. It further led me to studying a certificate in expressive arts therapy, and through this journey did I discover the profound impact art can have on our well-being. Our imagination is a powerful tool, and experiences expand our imagination. Every single second of our life, we are experiencing something, even during our sleep. The quality of a mattress, the texture of our bed sheets will have an impact on whether we have a good night rest. That's an experience. And well-designed, meaningful experiences are rare and in high demand. I want to ask you guys a question. How many of you can think of an app that you genuinely love and find useful? Because for me, I can only think of 3. And it kind of shocks me that there are over 2.22 million apps in iOS and 3.48 million apps for Android. And I could only think of a maximum of 3 apps that I genuinely love and find useful. And so my second question is, how and why do you love them? Perhaps it carries a specific purpose. Perhaps it solves something that you need. Perhaps it's fun and easy to use. Consumers make decisions based on the experience it facilitates. And now, more than ever, people are constantly seeking for new experiences. And so, my final question is, why do you want to be a product designer? Or why are you a product designer? And I hope your answer has something to do with helping people, to give them control, to give them a voice, to help them meet their needs, to help them change. Because it is definitely where designer's job comes into play. Creating an immersive experience that puts people first. And I know this is so much easier said than done. So today I am about to share with you a research tool that can help you do just that. That can help you move beyond functionality and aesthetics and into building meaningful experiences. Because it's not just about building a service, but making it relevant and purposeful. It's not just about creating complex product needs, but one that solves a real problem. It's not just about meeting metrics and sales goals, but driving the right behavior change. Okay, so let's look at the following problem statement. How can we motivate the most inactive Manchester residents to get fit and stay fit? If we just use the double diamond and the best UX principles available, we may create a great solution which spoke about building exercise rituals, time tracking, heart rate tracking, and all the features one could ask for. But guess what? The product could have been an instant failure. And I know this because this was a brief I got when I did my master's. And we discovered that the biggest obstacle that prevented people from staying fit and healthy was to first recognize the obstacles in their environment. We had to invest time to understand the weather in Manchester was very sporadic and the parks were outside of the city centre. Many people are low-income earners, which means signing up to gyms may not be within their financial budget. And on top of that, since our target audience were poor-time integrators, many didn't have the time to work out because of family responsibilities like having kids. So accessibility to daycare services would be their best bet. But remember, they are low-income earners and may not have the luxury to take their children to a childcare centre. With these environmental constraints, a product that had all the great features like a heart rate monitor, time and food tracking would have not worked, but instead needed a product or experience that offered people an ability to exercise and work out with their community, their family, and their friends. And this is exactly what we did. And that's the importance of research on a deeper level. And so the tool that I found very useful in helping our team move beyond just the person and look at the environment is one by our mentor, Lauren Alice Kelly, called the Drive Grid. Lauren founded Behavioural, a space that empowers design and innovation teams with the tools and training they need to understand and change human behaviour. So the Behavioural Toolkit is a knowledge hub that has everything you'll need to understand people and change what they do. The Drive Grid is just one of them. This tool helps break down the complexities of human behaviour and reveal hidden drivers that impact people's decisions. It helps UX researchers craft clearer research questions and make informed project choices. So let's dive straight into it and let me show you how. So here on Figma, I've already set up a template, and using the problem statement I had spoken earlier, which is how can we motivate the most inactive Manchester residents to get fit and stay fit, I'm going to show you how to use this tool. But just to let you know that it took me at least a day to learn. So what I'm sharing here is only skimming the surface of what this grid is about. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to this link here. You can see here it says Drive Patterns. This is a more detailed version of the tool of the Drive Grid. Instead of 9 elements, it's 25 different elements. So for those who absolutely love researching and would really love to get the crux of the problem, the Drive Patterns is a really great toolkit. But because of time, I will only show you through the Drive Grid. And also Lauren has recently built an online guided version of the Behave toolkit. And so you can definitely go there and check all the resources out at your own time. When we need to understand behavior, we can ask ourselves one of 2 questions. The first, how does the behavior form? Behavioral science shows us behavior forms in a number of stages. These can be condensed down to 3: direct, shift, and act. These are the 3 behavioral stages because behavior change isn't just a one-step solution or a one-step journey. Like if you're a night owl person, being a morning person isn't going to happen overnight. And if you're used to eating junk food, eating healthy isn't going to happen overnight. It occurs on a spectrum of readiness. So direct factors the affects what people do from individual thoughts to their environment. Shift factors that trigger people to start from individual motivation to their changing environment. Act factors that support people to keep from individual habits to their environmental influences. And on the y-axis, we have me, we, and oversee. These are the 3 layers of influence that often remain hidden for the people and the decision makers. Me is the individual factors, which refers to people's own biases, attitude, and their beliefs they hold towards themselves. We are the social factors, everything that influences the person, social groups and communities that govern their behavior and beliefs, such as households, culture, and religion. Oversee is the context factor, the environment that they grew up in and all the rules and regulations that informs the way they act. Now, with the frame of the grid, let's dive deeper into each sector. For each section, I've laid out some prompts as well, some prompt questions. These are just prompt questions and not the end all and the be all. You can always add more questions, and there's definitely more questions to be added. And these are just the ones I found relevant and can answer today based on the problem statement I shared earlier. For first, we have heart and mind. These are the attitudes and beliefs, mental models, and decisions. Some of the questions you can ask yourself is, what do people think? What do they see? Do their existing attitudes and beliefs align with their behavior? And some of the responses we had were, for example, overwhelmed with daily tasks and responsibilities, putting family priorities over themselves, helpless, can't focus on themselves. So that's their own existing attitudes and beliefs. Moving on, we have motivation. So these are the goals, incentives, and motivations, and autonomy. I think it's actually autonomy here. Autonomy. Some of the prompt questions is what matters to people now, what matters to people in the future, what motivates people, and some of the responses were family, jobs first, competence to make more money, make more money to keep family afloat. And in the doing, we have confidence, planning, and habit formation. So some of the questions you can ask yourself is, what habits do they currently have? Because of their motivation and how they think, how are they acting upon it? Does their habits pave the way for success or reinforce pitfalls? And some of the examples we have here is convenience over healthy meals, watching sport on TV at night, and perhaps some of these behaviors actually doesn't pave the way for success and does reinforce pitfalls. So this is very important to note, what are their current habits. Now moving on to the we factor, we have group values, group membership, group expectations, and norms. Some of the prompt questions are, what is the identity of the group? What are the unwritten rules of the group? Does belonging to a specific group affect their behavior? So for example, here I've got household rules. People have no time. Time is sacred. Spending time with their family is important. So we can agree that, belonging, that the household, the environment does affect their behavior, right? Moving forward, we have flux. This is about the changes that happen within their environment. So here we've got social horizon, conformity versus conflict, and purpose. For example, changes in jobs, becoming a parent is also something that fluxes, right? Like you adopt a new identity, or something happened unexpectedly, spontaneously, such as the pandemic. So understanding these influxes, we can ask ourselves, do people start to change when things change? So when the pandemic happens and when they become a parent, does things change for them? And what changes, right? Then moving on, we have influence. These are belonging, role models, and peer reinforcements. So some questions we can ask ourselves here is, do the people in their environment influence their behavior? Do they have someone to look up to or feel the need to be a role model for someone? For example, being a role model for children means there are certain responsibilities that will take place, right? So here we've got kid supporter and becoming a role model, expectations that certain responsibilities will be taken place. Now, looking at the overarching of our user group's environment, we have rules and tools. What are the artifacts that people use? What rules made by others do people follow? What regulations are in place? Some of the responses are, parks are outside of the city centre, rigid working hours, helpless, can't focus on themselves. So some of these research can be very much looking at the map, the geographical location of where our target audience lives, right? And what is accessible to them in that environment. And that leads to environment, which is emerging act, communication environment, and opportunities. So some of the questions that we can ask ourselves is like, what emerging actions or alternatives are there? What is communicated to people? What grabs people's attention, and ultimately what are the opportunities, right? So here we've got local daycare centers, passing their children to their grandparents if the audience that we're looking at tends to not move at home, some rural areas where community is quite important and you have generations of family living in this one space. Then finally, roots. Roots is the physical barriers and physical enablers. For example, having to meet household needs could be a physical barrier. and that there are many gym centers within the city could be a physical enabler. So how easy is the behavior? What barriers hinder people? What are the enablers that help people? What opportunities are there to act? So moving to meet household needs, for example, proximity, like I said earlier, the gym centers within the city centers. The benefits of using Lauren Alice Kelly's drive grid is that it helps us see the entire picture, view things from different lenses, and consider not just the individual's desires, but the environment too. Because sometimes when we conduct user interviews, the user themselves aren't even clear on why they behave in a certain way. It requires a lot of self-awareness. And so by filling out this grid, you are able to identify the gaps in your research and thus decide as a team how might we research to uncover the hidden unknowns that impact people's behavior. Because just like every city is built differently, each and every product needs to adjust to meet the people's unique spaces and be driven by people's problem behavior first. And that's the key to drive innovation that can create meaningful experiences.